Hello everyone, my name is Kim Kester and I am the American Honey Queen. So we're going to talk about talking to media today. But first we'll talk a little bit about who I am. Jesse gave a good introduction of myself. I am originally from a small hobby farm in central Wisconsin. I grew up with horses, llamas, all kinds of interesting animals. But it wasn't until I was in college that I got interested in honeybees. And I thought it was really amazing how honeybees connected agriculture and all the animals I had been raising in 4-H and our food supply. And they're really the silent workers behind our everyday lives. So I do have a bachelor's from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in dairy science and poultry science. And I'm working on my master's in agricultural education from Iowa State University. And with that, I'd really like to work in state or county extension services or some kind of field where I can help educate others and promote agriculture, whether it be four-legged livestock or the honeybees. So one thing that I've done as American Honey Queen already is go through some really intensive media training. And that was about a week solid of learning how to speak to radio people, people who work with newspapers, and even television interviews. So we learned quite a lot and we gained valuable skills. The American Honey Princess and myself were both present. So I'm going to cover a few of the things that they really taught us about in our media training. So first, why would we talk to the media? Why give presentations about beekeeping or even talk to the media? What's the point? So this is really an opportunity where we can get our message out. And whether you're a beekeeper now or you plan on being a beekeeper someday, your day is coming. People see you as a beekeeper, and so they're just going to think that you know everything, that you are an expert that they can consult about the industry. So we need to be armed with appropriate answers where we can shed a positive light on our industry and what we're trying to achieve with our bees. So you need to be prepared for that. Because you may be approached at things like this. Someone wanders in and they're with a newspaper. They might want to interview you about your operation or your views on the beekeeping industry in your state or your city, such as Albuquerque. So again, preparing for an interview, you really want to know your audience. If you can get the different age ranges of the people that you'll be speaking to. If it's a radio interview, what time of the day does it air? Are they people driving into work, making the commute? Or is it kind of an after-school time where the kids and mom are sitting at home listening to the radio or they're in the car? So you need to know who you're speaking to and what they may want to get out of what you're telling them. So just keep in mind their specific interests. Or if you're doing just a presentation, even at a group, are they a cooking group? Do they want to learn how they can use honey in different recipes at home? Or do they want to get into beekeeping themselves? So really be conscious of what they're looking to get out of your presentation or interview. It really helps to develop an outline. And you can add to this outline or take away from it or just change things depending, again, on your audience and what you're trying to achieve and what results you want to get from the interview. So it helps you stay focused. And you may want to keep it simple, just little note cards with bullet points, not really whole sentences, because then it turns into you are reading sentences off of a note card and no one wants to listen to that. So you need to keep it kind of natural. Give yourself bullet points to stay on track, but you all know your information. You know what you're talking about. So you are sort of an expert yourself. So just be comfortable and tell them what you know in a casual, comfortable, understandable way. So again, it helps to develop an outline to ask yourself some key questions. Again, who am I talking to? What are we trying to achieve? Where are we doing this? And how are we going to get that information to the people? And why are we telling them this? What do we really want to achieve? Do we want to promote our beekeeping booth at the state fair and have them buy local honey? Do we want the people to be more aware of issues facing honeybees, such as chemical uses in residential or agricultural areas? Really focus on the take-home message And you want to be a little bit quotable. So if it's a TV interview or radio, chances are they're going to take sound bites. They're not going to take your entire interview. So try to get your message across succinctly if you only have a short period of time. For example, if you're trying to convey that honeybees really help with pollination and to our food supply, get that in right away so they know what your point is, and they can pull that soundbite and use it for many different things and throw it into their radio program more easily, as opposed to taking a longer approach to describing the entire process. But if you have more time, that's where you can add content to your outline and really get into the nitty-gritty details if you do have time that allows for that. So again, what do you want the result to be? What do you want the people to get out of it, and what do you think they want to get out of it? So here's an example outline. So an introduction, for example, I just told you all about myself. Maybe introduce yourself as a beekeeper. How long have you been keeping bees? Or do you not have bees at all and you're just interested? Because I know there are some members that may not have bees quite yet and they're still working on it. The media may still approach you and ask you your views on different aspects of the industry. So again, tell them who you are. It makes them feel more comfortable with what you're telling them and that you can be considered a credible source. Give yourself headers such as the 3 types of the bees. And if you need to write down things such as queen, drone, worker, do that. But this outline can turn from 3 types of bees into the queen is the heart of the hive. She can lay up to 2,000 eggs per day, and she's responsible for creating all the further generations. It's just really a word or phrase that you can use to spark your own knowledge that you already have in your head and just produce it for whatever you're attempting to speak about. And then just go from there. So again, outlines can be added to as necessary or taken away. So during the interview, again, express key messages very clearly in sound bites. So really focus on being quotable. And do not repeat negative information. A lot of times, media will ask you about killer bees. Tell me about killer bees in your area. Are they a concern? Do not say, well, actually, the killer bees were referred to as Africanized bees, and then go on with your statement. Just jump into the Africanized bees do this and this. You do not want to repeat the negative information, especially if they're taking those sound bites again, because you're just repeating the negative information, and that is what is going to stick in people's minds. So if you need to place extra emphasis on Africanized bees are actually really great honey producers, and researchers are working on ways to better manage them because they do have this other positive attribute. And that's another thing, is to keep it positive. Some media will try to turn an interview against you, so really be in control and keep it positive and turn it back around to the angle you want the interview to take. So it may seem a little odd at first to kind of steer them away from the questions they're asking, but sometimes they need that. And that allows you to turn the conversation around and get out the positive message about bees, such as how gentle and docile they are, as opposed to someone focusing on their ability to sting humans. So turn it to the positive. A lot of times people will ask you questions you simply do not know the answer to. And I will be the first one to tell you it's okay to say, I don't know. You don't want to speculate or give them incorrect information, but also offer to find an answer for them. If there's something they ask you that you don't have an answer for, say, hey, that's a great question, and maybe after the show or after the interview, I can look that up for you, and we can look at that information together, and we can get them the answers that they want and that they need. So really be aware that it's okay to say you don't know, because you can't know everything, that's for sure. Use your discretion for topics. If it's maybe a kid's TV show that you're on and they just want to learn about fun honey snacks, maybe don't talk about colony collapse disorder and all the different challenges facing bees. Just use your discretion. You know what would be appropriate for the audience that you've already determined and what they want out of the interview. And pace yourself. So you can talk really, really fast and really get your things out super fast. But sometimes you just need to take a breath, take a couple steps across the stage. A little respiration's always nice, and just pace yourself, especially if they're taking those sound bites that we talked about. Because people who can only hear you on the radio can't watch your facial expressions or really see any of your hand gestures. So you need to use your voice to put emphasis on things. And a pause can sometimes say more than the words that are actually coming out of your mouth. So again, if you need to emphasize something, such as, when America is hungry, the honeybees provide. Use your pauses, use your tempo of your speech to really drive that message home. So you're in control. Again, don't let them try to turn the interview against you and just keep coming back to negative topics. Just admit, you have to acknowledge their question, admit, yes, sometimes bees sting, but they're actually really docile animals, and this is why they're great. So make it positive. So really connect with the audience if you can. Confidence is important. You don't want to stand up here saying, well, yes, I have bees, and they're quite nice. You'd be like, yes, I have bees. They are awesome. They make delicious local honey right here in Albuquerque, and you can come down to the farmer's market around the corner and buy some, and use it in different recipes, and then go into different facts about the different varieties of honey, or whatever you're trying to achieve from this media interaction. And again, do not drone on if your audience seems uninterested. Some of you look a little sleepy this afternoon, so maybe we can wake up and stay energized. So if you need to start asking your audience a question, if you're doing a presentation to keep them involved, you can do that. For example, who keeps bees in Albuquerque? All right, there, some of you are alive. That's great. We like to see that. So be flexible. They can always throw you a curveball, and just be prepared for that, and don't stumble over yourself. Just remain calm. If you need to take a slight moment to find an answer in your head, that's okay. They understand that they just threw you a curveball. That's what they're trying to get you to do, is to sometimes fumble. So just be comfortable and be yourself. Add a visual interest, especially if you're doing a presentation like this. A PowerPoint could even be your visual interest. Or if you're on TV, you can bring in a jar of your honey so you can show them the different color that comes from the different nectars. And then you can work in the plant species determines the color and the flavor of the honey. So you have a visual aid to also drive home the informational and educational message that you do have. So again, this can be anything, as you see here, a former honey queen is using a bee suit. A lot of kids or even adults in the public don't know what any of our equipment looks like. They're just not familiar with our industry. So take that opportunity to show them what some of that equipment looks like and how you use it. And don't be afraid to really get simplistic, especially if you're explaining something like a smoker to children. They have no idea what it does. So really break it down so anyone can understand the information. And if they have questions, be prepared to answer those as well. After the interview, this is perhaps one of the most important things, because this is where people are going to remember you and you can leave a lasting, positive impression on them. Especially staff in TV and newspaper. Maybe they're not the best paid, so free food, like a free jar of honey, or even honey sticks, is really going to ring in a great way with them. They're going to say, hey, that girl gave me some honey sticks. That was really nice. Maybe I'll feel nicer about how I'm publishing the materials that she actually gave me today. Or hey, I got a recipe picture. Maybe I'm going to go home and use more honey now that I have this great resource that I can pull from. So don't be afraid to have leave behinds, even if it's just one honey stick. That's going to make a lasting impression on someone, that you actually thought ahead to have something for them that they could take home and start a conversation with others. Because one great thing about these media interviews is we're not just talking to the reporter and educating them. Our message is getting to everyone else that can see that TV interview or hear that radio interview. And they're even going to go home and talk to their children or their spouses about some interesting factoid that you sent them home with. So we can reach even broader audiences, especially if you stay quotable and positive. And thank the interviewer for their time. They didn't have to take time out of their busy day to interview you or take down your thoughts and the facts about the industry. So really just be appreciative of what they're doing for you as a beekeeper, if you're promoting your local honey, but also for the beekeeping industry. Because any column space we can get in newspapers, any airtime on radio, or minutes on TV is positive publicity for the beekeeping industry. Not just in your local area, but nationally. So keep that in mind the next time that you approach media, or media approach you as well. That's your opportunity to get your voice out about the national beekeeping industry. So that was a lot, so I'll take questions now about speaking to the media. Maybe I didn't pace myself the greatest. I'm still in training. So are there any questions about talking to media for TV, radio, maybe in print, such as newspaper? Any questions about how to handle common questions that you may get from the media? Tough crowd. Jeez, guys, come on. I see one.
My question is, how do you become the American Honey Queen? And who runs the election, and how does that all work? And I know that's not about the media, but I hope you'll indulge me.
No, that's totally okay. That's actually the next section to my presentation is about the American Honey Queen program, what we do, and how we're selected. So we will get to that. Anything media specific? All right. Eager hand.
Yeah. So last summer there were probably Africanized bees. They were very aggressive, and the media, the news, were awful in their presentation about honeybees. And they showed the beekeeper with his little suit on, I don't know, for 3 or 4 nights, the same shot. And the neighbors were all complaining that they were getting stung. And I thought the media needs to do a much more balanced presentation. How would you approach them to try to get them to give the other side of the story?
So was this a situation where the media approached this beekeeper that was in the footage and they had the Africanized bee problem? Or was the beekeeper going to the media? Do you know?
No, I think the media approached the beekeeper because the neighbors were complaining.
Okay. In that kind of situation, that's where it's great that you all, as beekeepers, have the tools necessary to create a positive impact when you talk about bees, even if it may be something that's not necessarily viewed as a positive, such as the Africanized bees. So in that type of situation, just say, hey, yes, sometimes Africanized bees can be a concern. They can breed with our standard European honeybees and maybe make a more aggressive bee. But they do have these positives, and we're working on it. So you need to give them some kind of hope that the problem is being addressed, and then that there can be a positive outcome in the future. I guess that's how I would try to swing that one. Does that make any sense? Okay. So if at all possible, especially if you know the media is coming and they're going to try to spin it in a negative manner, also give them positives about the beekeeping industry or the Africanized bees, that they're actually great honey producers. So just really throw in the positives, especially if you know they're going to swing it in a negative light. Okay.
Yeah, my question is, what are the most common questions the media has as far as beekeeping and that has been asked, basically?
That's a great question. So I get a lot of questions about Africanized bees. So again, turn it into a positive. So they're going to ask you whether Africanized bees are a concern in your area. For me, up in Wisconsin, not so much a concern, but I know in southern New Mexico, they're potentially having more Africanized bees showing up and posing some issues. So again, be aware of what's going on in your area with Africanized bees. Also, the reporters generally ask, do bees sting you? How many times have you been stung? And a great way to turn that around and say, I've been stung, I don't even know how many times, but bees are actually really docile and gentle, and they're unlikely to sting you unless they feel threatened or you're swatting at them. So make them feel comfortable, oh, they're not just coming after me just to sting me, it's only if they're protecting their home or someone steps on them or something like that. I'm also asked about colony collapse disorder rather frequently. And the official position is that it's a multifactorial issue. There's no one root cause that we can just point fingers at. And if they press you further, you can offer the different potential causes it may be. It may be pesticides, it may be diseases, it may be different weather factors, and just management as well of the bees. So offer them those answers if they want, but say that researchers are actively working on this to find solutions, to see if there is something that we can do as an industry to kind of correct this. So again, stinging, Africanized bees, and CCD are some of the main questions that media will want to ask you.
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay, Honey Queen program. Wow. All right, so the objectives of the Honey Queen program are to promote honey and educate people about the beekeeping industry in the United States. One main thing we do is also teach students about honeybees and their importance to pollination and how it affects our food supply. So while I've been here, I've visited 3 different schools where I've been able to reach over 175 students just in the past couple days. So that's one of our main jobs as the Honey Queen. We also want to increase the consumption of honey. We're beekeepers. Why? Because we love honey. So we want other people to love honey too. So the selection is an interview process. Over a week at the American Beekeeping Federation Convention, which was held in Jacksonville this year, there are secret judges that evaluate your communication skills, your professionalism, and your knowledge of the beekeeping industry. There's also an intense interview where you meet all of those 3 judges that have been watching you for the past week. You give a marketing presentation, and you also are involved in some impromptu questions, and people just see how well you interact with other people. And then the judges decide at that point, and they crown a queen and a princess. So promotions, we do a lot of school presentations, as I mentioned, because it's really great that we can get with the youth and access them because their minds are like sponges. They're going to take home information and tell it to their parents. Just regurgitate it to their friends at school and their parents and really get some of our key messages out there as well. We also do interviews with the media, as I mentioned, and different fairs and festivals where the public can come up and ask you questions that they've had on your mind, and you're just a really great resource for them there. So looking at our work in numbers, the American Honey Queen program generates about $500,000 per year in publicity for the American beekeeping industry. So that's work that we're all doing for you and beekeepers across the country. And through meetings such as the New Mexico Beekeepers Conference or school presentations, we will reach over 7 million people each year. So that is a lot of minds that we are getting into and a lot of opinions that we can maybe counteract if they have incorrect facts about the industry. So between the Queen and Princess, we're on the road for about 340 days in the year. So we're go, go, go all year long, and we're here to serve you. So we are a program of the American Beekeeping Federation, and the Federation is dedicated to educating and informing the public about the importance of honeybees for pollination and how honey can be used in your everyday life. And they actually do a lot of legislative work in Washington, D.C., where they help work on pollinator and honeybee friendly laws to come into play. So they're really a positive organization, and I encourage you all to become a member of the American Beekeeping Federation. We have a convention every year where beekeepers from hobbyists to sideliners to commercial beekeepers meet, and we can network and share ideas and how we can better our industry together. Our funding is mostly donations. We have an annual quilt raffle where tickets are $5 a piece, and that is where we get the majority of our funds to operate this incredible program all year. So we use airplanes to get to most of our locations. I didn't drive to Albuquerque, sorry. And so that's one of our main costs, is just getting the Queen and the Princess where they need to be to talk to the school children, to speak to beekeepers. So we really focus on beekeepers such as yourself and even members of the public to help contribute to our program so we can keep doing the education work that we do all year long. So to keep up with my travels, or to get more information, you can go to our Facebook page, which is the American Honey Queen Program. We also have a YouTube channel where we post educational videos. That's just American Honey Queen. And we have a blog where we invite the students that we speak to in schools to ask us questions. And the Queen and Princess write informational posts every month where those school children can then learn even more after we've left their school. And for more information about the American Beekeeping Federation, it's abfnet.org, as you see at the bottom of this slide here. So I will be around to answer more questions. I think I'm out of time. Sorry, guys. So if you have any questions about the program itself or speaking to the media, just find me afterwards. And thank you for your time today.